Hello, Internet. I am Pastor Recoil, and welcome to my parish. Today is the fourth Sunday in Lent, and we're going to talk about it. Welcome to Pastor Recoil's Parish, where I talk about some things in the Bible that you may not have heard about in church, either because it's not quite appropriate for all audiences, or it just isn't something that's easy to talk about in a sermon. Today's readings for the fourth Sunday in Lent are Isaiah 12, 1-6, Psalm 32, 2 Corinthians 5, 16-21, and Luke 15, 1-3 and 11-32. This set of readings is pretty straightforward and very Lentish. But this week in the Lenten season is a bit different. It's actually a Sunday of celebration in the midst of a season of mourning. The basic message for today is about reconciliation with God. Isaiah 12 talks about God's salvation of God's people, and God turning away from God's anger at the people. Psalm 32 is a celebration of forgiveness, with the psalmist rejoicing because God removed their guilt. 2 Corinthians 5 talks about a message of reconciliation, that God invites all people into a new sort of relationship, a new creation. And then Luke 15, with its parables of finding what was lost, remind us that all of these things are available to all people, no matter who they are. And that's a cause for rejoicing. That's something to celebrate. And so today gets to be a special Sunday called Laetare Sunday. This name comes from the Latin translation of Isaiah 66, traditionally sung at the beginning of the worship service in the churches that do such a thing. Rejoice with Jerusalem and be glad for her, all you who love her. Rejoice greatly with her, all you who mourn over her. For you will nurse and be satisfied at her comforting breasts. You will drink deeply and delight in her overflowing abundance. Slightly awkward imagery aside, Laetare is the Latin word for rejoice, and that's what makes this Sunday a bit special. It's sort of a break in the disciplines of Lent. Easter is only a few weeks away, and Laetare Sunday is a sort of halftime to give people a chance to celebrate before continuing in Lent. As part of the celebration, even the color of today is different. Instead of purple, the traditional color for Lent, today's color is rose, as the purple dye gets mixed with a bit of white to produce a pinkish, purplish color. Most churches don't have rose paraments or vestments. It's a lot of expense for something that gets used twice a year, once in Advent and once now during Lent. But I tend to wear a rose-colored cincture, the rope that's used to attach my alb and stole together. In very traditional churches, the organ, which is quite restrained during Lent, is used more prominently, and flowers return to the altar when they are otherwise absent. All these little traditions aren't important or really even necessary, but when we talk about them, the traditions can help tell the story of faith in ways that a sermon just doesn't. That's why I like a lot of these traditions, because the things we see in church should reflect what we're talking about. When we hear a message that we rejoice because our sins are forgiven, it's easier to understand when it's reinforced by things that remind us to rejoice, singing happier hymns and doing some special things to help us express our joy. That's what traditions are supposed to be. Not just stuff that we do because we've always done them, but stuff that helps to reinforce a bigger point. Oddly enough, it makes me think of video games. In the early days of video games, because they had limited space and resources available, they would often pad out these games with repetitive tasks in order to make the game appear bigger than it actually is. Now, with practically unlimited available storage, games don't need to have a lot of those repetitive tasks. But they're kept in because they're just part of the genre, much to players' annoyance. The best games take hints from what was and builds on them, creating something that uses those parts of the genre to tell a story better or to enhance the gaming experience. That is what tradition at its best does for the church. Our traditions are meant to help us worship God, to strengthen us in faith, and to send us out in the world to love those who need love. Laetare Sunday is one of those traditions, and used well, it fits that purpose, reminding us that when we cause harm to ourselves or others, God invites us into a life of love instead. And that is reason for rejoicing. So if you want to see more content like this, check out the links to my right, or click the logo below my face to subscribe so you'll know when my next video comes out. Thank you for watching, and take the time this week to love your neighbor as yourself, especially if you don't like them all that much.